Hey, what's going on, you miserable fucking bastards? Before the video starts, I would really appreciate if you help this old man out by liking and subscribing to my channel. I react to a lot of different shit on the internet, and I game like a motherfucker. I'm just gaming. Appreciate it, guys. Of course, armed gangs invade NYC subway as police flee. Yeah, nothing ever good happens whenever Cash Jordan makes a video about fucking New York.
Is down in the transit system, but there is one crime category that is still up, and that is the category of felony assault. The victims are not only riders, but the police officers sent underground.
So, as our leaders try and reassure us that the subway is getting safer, it's actually getting more dangerous.
No, it's not
for
really.
Police, who are now being targeted at greater rates than we've seen in a long time. And if the police are in trouble down here, pretty soon we're all gonna have big problems.
He ain't lying. If these guys got no problem attacking police officers, what does that mean for like normal everyday people just taking the subway? It might as well mean that every person has to carry like a knife or something worse in order for them to defend themselves. But the fact that it has to come to that point really shows me how bad we've become as a society in New York City, at least.
New York City police officers are making arrests in record numbers underground, in stepped-up patrols on the trains, on the platforms, and at the turnstile.
Yo, certain stations though. I mentioned before in my previous videos that the wealthy stations, Penn Station, like 42nd, like we're going downtown to Manhattan, there's plenty of these guys here. If you go to Uptown or even like the outer boroughs, you're not gonna see much police presence.
But as they do, they're becoming crime victims themselves.
Contributing to the rise in felony assaults is the disturbing and unacceptable dramatic increase in the number of NYPD cops being assaulted, all while proactively patrolling the subway system.
They just need more places for people with mental illness to be able to live in and take their medicine and things like that, because we need more help with people with mental illness here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had a silence, but then we closed it down. So I mean, I agree with that lady, but yet again, she probably is the type of person who voted for these fucking liberal ass policies that got those places shut down in the first place. So, you know, I mean, you reap what you sow. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. That's why I don't take it after 9 p.m.
Suspects in both those recent high-profile cases were promptly arrested thanks in part to an already heavy police presence in the subway system and an extensive network of MTA cameras. It's these types of crimes riders say worry them the
Basically, they're going to watch you from another room getting your ass kicked or stabbed up. That's what basically those cameras are.
most.
You see how I'm like positioned here so I won't get pushed off the train?
But officers...
See, the fact that she has to say some shit like that. Dude, I do the same thing, except I take it to an extreme.
You see how I'm like...
Yeah, buy the fucking concrete, buy the little fucking station tower.
Here so I won't get pushed off the
Exactly. Or you're holding on for dear life so nothing fucking happens to you. I take it a step further. I stay where the staircase are, like basically where the terminal is, and then you go downstairs to go to the station to get to the tracks. I'm staying by the fucking stairs so nothing happens to me.
But officers are under orders to enforce so-called quality of life offenses like fare beating. And as they do, they're often confronted by the unstable people who are menacing riders.
Yep.
With 700 blades being seized on the train so far this year, it makes you wonder just how safe we really are down here. Because what nobody in charge of this place will admit is that all of this points to a subway system that isn't getting safer, but is rather teetering on the edge of collapse.
Pretty much.
And before we get into what's causing this and why it's only getting worse, we better do it quickly, because if you look around at all the rust and decay down here, it very well could be that this entire place collapses before the end of this video. It's incredible.
Dude, the fact that all that money, especially right now that they fucking they jumped up, oh man, I'm fucking butchering my words. They rose the fare to get into the fucking train station. For a single ride now costs $2.90. Might as well be $3. They're probably by next year or maybe a year and a half, it'd probably be to $3. And for two rides, it'll cost like $6 or $5.80. $5.80 is currently right now. So, but nothing is happening with the fucking station. The stations are all dilapidated. There's one train station somewhere in Manhattan, which just, it looks like something straight out of the early 1900s. Just rust, old, decrepit, just everything has just gone to shit. I'm like thinking to myself, bro, you're taking how much money from us and yet nothing is being done with these fucking stations? Plus, also, crime is fucking rising. People now got to be fucking so vigilant under the stations, bro. Not many people have the luxury of buying a fucking car. Or worse, not many people have the luxury of, you have a car, but paying God knows how much for the fucking underground garages in New York City on top of the fucking fare hikes when you go into the city with a car, which is like $9 for a car, some shit like that. So we're basically getting cooked from all sides. It's fucking crazy.
old, which doesn't make any sense because not only is this America's most dangerous public transit system, it's also the most expensive. And it doesn't help that the subway is also the full-time residence of some 4,000 individuals the city has left to fend for themselves, many of whom are sadly dealing with mental health issues, but also happen to be armed, making them a danger to themselves and possibly others.
Yep.
And when you add to that an agitated base of perpetual criminals roaming the subway looking to assault and rob others, there's a level of lawlessness down here that won't disappear even with more police than ever on patrol. And that brings us to the real reason police are now being targeted. They're getting up every day, putting on their uniforms to protect the general public from people who probably shouldn't be down here at all. Because not only do our laws mandate...
Yeah, most of these mentally ill people don't give a fuck. They don't know what the hell's going on with their fucking psyche, so they even give a shit less about their surroundings and shit like that. I've seen plenty of fucking times where people just, and this is the thing I hate though, people just stand around and just ignore the problem instead of calling that shit out. They're just like, they don't, like, pretending that shit doesn't exist. That's what I fucking hate about New Yorkers sometimes, bro. As a New Yorker, it pains me because sometimes the cowardice that most New Yorkers have is just fucking crazy. Ignoring bullshit that's happening next to you until like something actually happens to you, instead of actually standing up and doing something about it. I'm not saying to get in and get into a fucking fist fight. I'm not saying that, because I'm not saying to risk your fucking life, but at least, have the balls to say, yo, bro, cut that shit out, or get off the fucking state, or get off the fucking train, or some shit like that. Like, Jesus Christ.
Most of the people police arrest be released without bail. They also mandate that anyone who needs long-term mental health intervention be involuntarily committed, but only for a mere 72 hours in most cases, putting our police in an impossible no-win situation, constantly dealing with the same people, even though these are folks who oftentimes have a frightening track record of unpredictable behavior. And sadly, as you're about to see, if the police aren't safe down here, nobody is.
Pretty much.
So we've been hearing for a long time about how the subway is safer than it's ever been. But perhaps that's just because
Safer.
police have been putting themselves between us and the criminals down here, which reveals something very troubling. The danger down here still exists. It's everywhere. It's all around us. It's just being drawn to the officers who are down here to protect us. And that's turned this place into a ticking time bomb.
Assaults on New York cops now patrolling subways in larger numbers are up by 152% over the last 5-year period. Attacks are also up on transit workers. The MTA claims.
So when a normal person sees police down here in the subway, we feel safer. We don't think anybody would be stupid enough to try anything with them around, but as it turns out, that's not the case at all.
No,
Cops are out
sir.
here making arrests, stepping up patrols, actually trying to clean up the subway, but criminals are fighting back. And apparently this has been a trend since 2022 when assaults against police...
Yo, I rarely ever see these fucking dudes with these fucking types of weaponry on stations. I don't know where the hell this station is at, but I rarely ever see this shit, bro. Maybe because I live in the outer boroughs and, they don't really give a shit about us out here, but I rarely ever see it every time I go to Manhattan, and I'm not going to like uptown or midtown. I'm going downtown. So I'm like, where the fuck are these dudes?
Suddenly jumped, and today 1 in 3 felony assaults is against a police officer. And you've got to wonder, if somebody's willing to assault a police officer, what chance do you or I have if we encounter that person? Not much, and look at this. Although the city insists crime down here is decreasing, there is one particular crime that just won't disappear, and that would be the crime of assault. Assaults are 55% higher today than they were in 2019. And although I'm not sure what other crimes the city is including in its statistics to bring down the overall number, assaults are a crime that most people riding the subway
34th
are
Street,
really
Penn
alarmed
Station,
about,
yeah.
and riders are now 50% more.
That's one of the most expensive fucking, like, 34th Street, Penn Station. That's where the money is. So there's definitely going to be a lot of tourists too. So definitely going to be a lot of police presence here. A lot of it.
Assaults are a crime that most people riding the subway are really alarmed about, and riders are now 50% more likely to have a problem with an assault than they were just a few years ago. And if the crimes that really put people in danger are up, is it safer down here, even if the overall level of crime is down? No, it's not any safer down
Not really.
here. In fact, as we're learning, it's possible for overall crime to go down while the levels of danger down here go up. Just ask the police, who are now the victims of a crime wave they're supposed to stop.
Arrests are 100% up, especially people being stopped for fare evasion, honestly. And some of those people who apparently got used to the idea that fare evasion was a God-given right, then haul off the cops.
So that's the head of the MTA, and he's shocked that police are now being targeted. But there's a problem with this outrage, because when subway crime affects you or I or any customer of the MTA, he says it's all in their head. But I'm thankful he's not telling the police.
It's fucking crazy, because if we call that shit out, they'll think that we're all fucking crazy, that we're all just spazzing out for some shit that doesn't happen. I guarantee you most of these dudes don't even take the subway at all. Guarantee you most of them probably have chauffeurs or probably have their own fucking cars and their own private like parking slots, like in some underground garage where near where they work. I guarantee you they're not like the average Joe, like all these people.
that the crime they're experiencing is in their heads. Now, obviously, the head of the MTA is in a tough spot. It's an election year in New York City, and he's got to play nice with everybody, both riders and politicians, which has got to be like jumping through hoops of fire every time the news cameras are pointed at you. But he brings up a very frightening statistic. All these assaults on police are taking place when they go about combating a problem progressives say isn't a big deal, and that would be fare evasion, something that costs the city $800 million a year when people go through turnstiles like this without paying, or these right here, which were actually...
Dude, I have no idea how it's going to be once they discontinue the what do you call it, the Metro cards, because at the end of the year of this year they're going to discontinue the Metro card. Yep, they're going to go the way of the tokens, like it did back in like the early 2000s or like the late 90s or some shit like that, if I can remember correctly. So you're going to be using like your fucking phone or some shit like OMNY. So what was it called? I think it was right here. Hold on a second.
City $800 million a year when people go through turnstiles like this without paying, or these right, something that when they go about combating a problem progressive...
This shit right here. I forgot what it was called. OMNY or something. OMMY or whatever the fuck this is called. This thing is what you're going to use to pay. Like this shit right here. Let me move my camera. Like these right here is what you use to fucking pay with the new system that's coming at the end of 2025, early 2026. The Metro cards, which is what you use to swipe these things right here, that's going to be gone. So, yeah, I don't know how that's going to work when it comes to fare evasion and shit.
Say isn't a big deal, and that would be fare evasion, something that costs the city $800 million a year when people go through turnstiles like this without paying, or these right here, which were actually introduced to decrease fare evasion because the thought was they'd be so easy to use, nobody would jump. If you're wondering, this is one of those expensive pilot programs the city spends its money on instead of hiring more police to keep us safe down here. But we're constantly told by progressive...
Dude, that doesn't do shit, bro. That is not going to stop fare evasion, them little doors. I can easily hop that shit. Easy.
That fare evasion's not a big deal.
They have that shit in France. I had no issues hopping that shit over in France when I was there back in 2014. That was so easy. I only did it once because I was scared because I ran out of money on my card, and that was in a foreign city. I didn't do it just to do it. Just saying, I didn't do it just to do it.
In fact, these are the same people who believe that all public transit should just be free. But studies show that oftentimes, folks who've evaded the fare then go on to commit a much more egregious crime once they're inside the subway.
Always wanting free shit. Always wanting free shit, man.
Now we hear from the head of the MTA himself that folks evading the fare are also the ones engaging in combat with law enforcement when they get busted, revealing that a lot of what goes on down here is not only not victimless, the victims of those crimes just so happen to be whoever the criminal first encounters.
In 1997, there were 17 felonies a day. Last year, just 6. But officers are under orders to enforce so-called quality of life offenses, like fare beating. And as they do, they're often confronted by the unstable people who are menacing riders. Felony assault.
So here we go again with the news telling us that major crimes are down, but you've also got this perpetual mass of people who aren't afraid of anybody or anything, and assaults are simultaneously up. And a big component of this nobody's talking about are how overall levels of lawless behavior down here are skyrocketing. You've got people sleeping, lounging about on platforms, engaging in disruptive behavior for no reason, and the city just lets all of that go. And although criminal sympathizers don't want to admit it, rampant disorder just attracts more criminals and more lawless behavior, not less. In fact, since we're now punishing less crime than ever before, we're creating an army of entitled criminals.
Even a fucking fat dude like that can easily hop a turnstile, especially if he's tall. I'm telling you, man.
And we shouldn't be surprised when they lash out punishing
Wait,
less crime than ever before. We're creating an army of entitled criminals. And we shouldn't be surprised when they lash...
So now we got Karens walking, like criminal Karens just going around saying, excuse me, I have the right to fucking do whatever the hell I want. If I want to hop the turnstile, I'll hop the fucking turnstile. If I want a fare rate, which I don't believe in fare evasion because everyone should have fucking, you know, free transportation and all that shit. So I get to do what I want. You know, they're the same people who probably claim fucking like sovereign citizenship or whatever the fuck that shit's called.
Lash out at the authorities, though.
So they get that rude awakening. And this right here. What is she gonna do against this fucking dude right here? If he gets up and smacks the shit out of her, what is she gonna do? Let's be honest with ourselves.
One rare instance where they do get confronted about doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And this is going to wear out and demoralize our officers. They can't put up with being the brunt of a crime wave forever. And once they're gone, that crime wave is just going to go back to targeting people like you and me.
33% of the felony assaults, the victims are police officers. 7% of the victims are transit workers. And MTA officials said today that many of those arrested are repeat offenders, some with multiple arrests in the same year.
Isn't that crazy? As a police officer in this city, it's your job today to arrest the same person you arrested yesterday for the same thing they did yesterday.
Yeah, because we got a revolving door type of criminal justice systems here in New York. You lock up somebody, and then a couple of days or maybe a week later, they're right back out to whatever business they were doing, and they get caught again, right back inside, caught again, unless they do something so egregious that they're going to be locked up for a long time. But it's just it's demoralizing, like he mentioned, because cops will just keep wasting their fucking time on this dude who's never gonna fucking change most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time they're not gonna fucking change. They don't give a shit. They're gonna keep committing crime. So fuck it, let me do what I want. It's basically their mentality.
And although most proponents of law and order disagree with progressives who say criminals will learn lessons from this constant arrest and release cycle, the criminals who make it down here are learning lessons all right. They're learning how to interact with police and evade them, and the limits of their power to arrest and detain someone, which is not what we want. We don't want criminals learning how to evade law enforcement and get better at breaking the law, but that's what happens since they never seem to wind up in jail for what they do. And the other problem contributing to a sense of lawlessness down here is the fact that New York City's laws handicap those tasked with assisting the mentally ill from actually caring for them. Many individuals down here are in need of long-term treatment, but in many cases our laws mandate people be discharged from facilities before anything's been accomplished, sometimes after just a few days, which leads to the same people coming back down here to do the same things and engage in the same behavior, contributing to that overall
but just a vicious cycle.
Level of lawlessness that we all experience the moment we enter this place. But luckily for people who ride the trains and use the subway in a law-abiding fashion, there is now an ultimate authority figure taking an interest in what's going on down here. And that authority figure would be the federal government, who's now going to step in and force New York City to make some changes down.
Oh yeah, Donald Trump did state that, hey, you got to make some changes or we're cutting your fucking funding. And when you're funding, I think it was a couple of $1 billion or something like that. I'll post it up here. It's a couple of fucking $1 billion. And if they don't do it, they don't get their money and shit might collapse. And honestly, let it fucking collapse. Because once this MTA collapses, as in going broke or something else happens, hopefully no one gets hurt. But once they go broke and all this shit goes to shit and all the subway system gets shut down, the people will actually stand up and get fed up with them and start calling out our constituents and our people and our local government who they represent us. I hope that's what happens. But what they could do is basically nothing. Not go to work, not do shit, just be lazy fucks. Hopefully it's the former, not the latter.
Here. So the reason so much crime takes place down in the subway is because for years, it's never been anybody's fault that things have been this way. Nobody's ever been held accountable, but that's about to change. Because New York City now has to share its crime data with the federal government, who gives it money to run the subway. And the federal government's made it clear that...
Uh-oh. We're looking all over you, New York. We're looking all over you, my dudes.
If they don't...
You better bring them fucking receipts.
See evidence New York City is taking steps to make things better and safer underground, they might not be footing the bill much longer, which could result in the MTA that runs the subway...
Cut them off, please. Feds, cut us off. I'm a New Yorker. I'm saying cut us off.
Having less money to experiment with different types of evasion-resistant gates, or less money in general to make repairs and even run the subway.
The Trump administration threatening to cut billions of dollars in federal funding to the MTA over its subway crime. The letter from the Department of Transportation did not include a specific amount that could be cut, but said consequences could include redirecting or withholding.
So the city losing its ability to just waste money on what is a black hole of financial investment, that could actually be a good thing. Now, the federal government hasn't said how much money the city's subway could lose or what they'll end up doing with it. For example, they've mentioned that funding could be redirected and, say, used for only purposes of law enforcement and safety, which would force the people running the subway to find their own money to make desperately needed repairs, instead of installing bizarre benches like this at stations where many people in the past have been found sleeping. Why else would they build something like this, which you can't even sit down on? Unless it was your mission to waste money on...
To be fair, I wouldn't want to sit on this shit. I would not want to sit on these fucking... Just look at how black this shit has gotten. God knows how many bodies have been fucking sitting on this shit for God knows how many decades. This shit is like hardwood. Hardwood, my guys. So, and a lot of fucking homeless people sleep on this shit. I would not want to get my pants dirty or my shirt dirty sitting on this shit. Nah, ain't doing it.
On things that don't actually help people who don't have a place to stay. But the most unbelievable aspect of this is, even though everybody knows the subway is not in a good place right now, our leaders are still out there defending it, even though assaults are up 55% in general and up over 150% on police.
I feel like the kid who gets called on the teacher when you actually done your homework. We have done so much.
No, these fucking politicians just want to catch a check, bro. They're just embezzling a shit ton of money so they can pocket all of the taxes that are coming in supposedly to repair the MTA. They're probably taking a good chunk of that money and putting it in their pockets. These guys don't care. Most of these people don't care unless you like put their feet to the fire and like really put up the foot on your put your feet on their necks and force them to change. That's the only way people are gonna change, is you force them to fucking change.
To improve subway safety.
MTA Chair Janno Lieber seeming to adopt a what me worry attitude about the latest round of threats from the Trump administration. Transportation sector.
So I think I'm starting to feel bad for the head of the MTA. Earlier, he just told us how shocked he was that police were now in trouble, but he's also out there telling us he's done everything so much to make it safer down here that your head will spin. And I don't want to give him a hard time, but if you went to school and you spent a long time on your homework, but it's all wrong, the effort you've spent doesn't offset the F that gets stamped.
Okay, so basically this dude is like, maybe he is a good dude. I'll take it back if he is a good dude. If he's a good dude and he literally, like, there's shit that's going on that he doesn't even know about, like they're just pulling a wool over his eyes and shit like that, then I honestly feel bad for him. But if he's in cahoots, then fuck him. I reserve judgment. I'll say that. I reserve judgment.
Stamped on your paper. In fact, the only recent safety initiative we can point to is the deployment of more police down here, and now assaults against police are up, so it's not really working, is it? On top of that, service is absolutely atrocious. You've got
we've been knowing that. Everyone knows that service in the MTA trains coming on time has always been like this for God knows how long. The new cameras, what you see now, that tell you like what train is coming and at what time long will it take, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to come. It never really is like that. It says 5 minutes, but won't come until like 8 or 9 minutes later. So it's not really accurate. And we've been knowing that these trains are just always coming in late. We've been knowing this.
Pandemic delays pretty much all the time now, making it pretty hard for people to actually see the results of the $20 billion a year this place gets. On the bright side, officers are doing a great job removing blades from the subway system. And oftentimes they say the people they find with weapons come in through the emergency gates, jump over the turnstiles, and they say that by failing to enforce those types of violations, potentially dangerous individuals are allowed to roam free in the subway. Yet as we're now learning, arresting people over and over again for the exact same time to
this
roam
shit right
free.
Here. These metal shits container were supposed to be to deter people from not hopping the turnstile. Does it look like it's doing that? Chat, does it look like it's doing that?
In the subway. Yet as we're now learning, arresting people over and over again.
If you're tall enough, you could easily just grab it. This shit's it's not fucking pointy or spiky at all. It's kind of dull the point. You could easily just grab it and just hop over it. It's not a big deal. Or you could just grab here, get a grip right here in this little area, these grooves right here, the bent portion right here, and just hop it. Easy.
For the exact
waste
same
of money, I
types
swear.
of crimes is just a band-aid solution at best for a long-term crime problem that's just getting worse.
I'm not concerned. We have actually the lowest number of daily crimes in the subway system than we have ever had in recorded history in the first part of this year.
A spokesman for Governor Hochul said her first priority is public safety, which is why she surged more than 1,000.
So it's hard to blame our leaders for having viewpoints like this. After all, we've got mayoral elections this year and a governor's election next year. They're just trying to look and sound their best. But nobody's out there going after our laws, which have created all of the problems taking place down here. After all, a system that just arrests people over and over again and doesn't put them in jail only...
They're probably like safe-faced, since it's an election year, they're probably safe-faced, like say all the nice things that New Yorkers want to hear, so that, like, you know, I'll fix the MTA, fix the streets, all that stuff, and then people will vote for them. If they happen to win, everything will just go back to the way it was, and people are none the wiser, because, you know, most New Yorkers will just ignore all the shit and just turn the other way, like, oh, we stick our head in the sand whenever shit like gets fucking real, or like people don't want to address the bullshit that's happening. So it's very rare we actually see politicians that actually do what they say they're going to do.
Trains those people to avoid arrest in the future, and a system that allows repeat offenders unlimited chances to come back to the scene of the crime will never right itself automatically. On top of that, all the recent decreases in crime our leaders point to could actually be fake. And let me tell you something, when you're down here trying to use the subway, it certainly feels like they're fake. And look, I'm not defending the officer who got caught doing this, but he's probably under a lot of pressure to come up with numbers that make it look like those that are in charge of him are doing a good job down here. And if you're a cop...
Oh yeah, there are a lot of fucking police stations. I live near one where certain police stations are underground in the fucking inside the MTA, like in the subway station. Like I would have assumed that would help, you know, deter some criminals in certain stations, but they're not everywhere, and it doesn't look, according to this video and a few statistics, doesn't really look like it's helping.
Right now, you're in a lose-lose situation. The people running this city don't want there to be actual solutions because there never have been any. And they greatly dislike the president who's coming to the table now, forcing them to fix the crime problems in America's largest and most dangerous public transit system. And here you are as a cop, you're on the side of law and order, while those who tell you what to do may not necessarily be. What do you think our police are going to do? Are they ever going to be able to stop crime down here without meaningful changes to our laws? And now that the federal government is threatening to take money away from New York City, could we finally see changes that make the subway a safer place for everyone down here, including including those who really need help and just aren't getting it. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Yo, good fucking video, bro. Shout out to fucking Cash Jordan again.